Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monday Night Live. As per usual, I'll give it a couple of minutes for Facebook to notify everybody that we're live and we're coming on. I'm really excited about tonight's topic, which is riding accidents and how we can be safer with our horses. So as you all start rolling in, please hit the thumbs up or the like button or say hello or something so I know that you're here, and so I can get it started for everyone. Hey Hannah, yay! That's awesome. Somewhere on your whatever you're watching on your device, hey Leah, it should have an invite button or a share button or a whatever. It should say something. Hey Hillary, it should say something about inviting your friends or letting people know that you're watching or something like that. So if you know anyone that would be interested in this topic, please go ahead and hit that hit that share button or that invite button. Hey Sarah, and we'll go ahead and get started as soon as possible. So as I said, tonight's topic is riding accidents and 15 ways that we can be safer with our horses. Hey Veronica, hey Gwenda. And it's a really important topic, and it came to me via a lady contacting me, someone who comes to my clinics up north, and she's a nurse and she's been working in an emergency department, and she's actually seen quite a number of horse riding accidents roll through the emergency department, some quite severe. And hey Monique, she's seen a few come in, and it's sort of, you know, it's a bit confronting obviously, even just for a normal person, non-horsey person would be confronted with that kind of thing. But being able to relate back to that accident and say, well, you know, I wonder what happened there because I've got horses and I ride horses and all that sort of thing, that confronted her, and she contacted me and said, is there anything that we can do to, you know, prevent it or avoid it or anything like that? So I put tonight's show together, and I thought it would be a really good topic to talk about tonight. So there is a really interesting video when you have time. If you put in the Facebook search field, if you put in there Warwick Schiller talking about freak accidents, he's done a clip on just the concept of a freak accident. So I'm not going to obviously tell you what he said because you can go ahead and go and watch it. It's a really cool little clip. And it's just the difference, you know, how we as horsemanship practitioners sort of look at the concept of a freak accident and maybe you know, consider what went into the accident to make it happen, and then see if it was avoidable. Something else that I'll try and share for you, I'll just write it down so I don't forget. Someone posted me a video just this morning because they said it would probably be relative to tonight's talk, and they've posted it on my timeline, so you should be able to see it on Tanja Horsemanship. And it's actually GoPro footage of a gentleman that's riding along. He's out on the trail with his friends, and they go across a bridge, and his stirrup actually gets caught on the rail. And so the horse gets stuck, and he gets stuck, and, you know, he jumps off and tries to get the saddle off, and then the horse is slipping because it's a wooden bridge, and all this stuff happens, and they both get out of it, and they both are fine. So you can watch it without thinking, oh, what's going to happen. They both do come out fine. He does go for a swim. He does actually fall off the bridge, or the horse actually struggles and bumps him off the bridge. So fortunately he had someone else there, and they helped him up, and they got the horse free. And the purpose of his video is he's sort of saying from the horse's perspective, you know, I was fortunate that this horse is trained, and I was able to, you know, get him out of this situation without the horse freaking out too much. So I'm going to talk about 15 things that we can do with our horses, and then I've actually got a bonus 5 because when I was writing it, they came to mind. So I've got 15 preventative type measures or actions that we can take to increase our safety. And then I've got 5 things that we can do to start to help our horse be more confident if they were going to get in a situation. So I've actually got 20 things to talk about tonight. So the first thing that I want to talk about in regards to keeping ourselves safe, and before I get into it, I do also want to say that the people that I've spoken to, I get to meet a lot of people, and they've shared with me their experiences, and most people, once they've had an accident, can probably say to me, most people say to me something like, I knew the horse wasn't ready, but I got on anyway. Or, I knew that the weather was going to turn, but we went out anyway. Or I knew this, but I did it anyway. So in hindsight, and we always say hindsight's a wonderful thing, but in hindsight, most people that have had an accident can say to you, you know what, if I really look at the situation, there's probably a couple of red flags there that should have prevented me from either getting on or staying on or going where I went, or, riding with, anyway, we'll get into it. So they're the few things that I took into consideration when I was preparing this course or this talk. So number one is to know your horse and to trust your instincts. So those of you that have got new horses or something like that knowing your horse is only going to come with time, but it comes from being an active observer of your horse. I can sit there and watch my horses in the paddock, and I can tell from a great distance if one of them is not right, even if they were injured, or they don't necessarily have to be lame, but I can sort of tell by looking at my horses, there's something not right with that horse, I need to go and check it. And you get down there and they might be caught in a bit of wire, or they might have a cut on them, or they might just be feeling a bit off today. So being observant about your horse and getting to know your horse, most of us can probably tell when our partners or our kids or people close to us are not happy without them even opening their mouth. And we want to establish this kind of skill when it comes to reading our horses. Trusting your instincts is coupled in with that. And what I mean by that is, if you've got an uneasy feeling, if you go out to the paddock and you're saddling up and you're doing things like that, and you think, there's just something about the horse today, I just don't think he's okay, you need to trust your gut instincts. Hey Greta, humans don't spend a lot of time operating on gut instincts, most of us, because we're going through day-to-day activities, we're going to work, or we're going to school, or we're doing things like that. So we don't have a lot of time where we're tuned into our instincts, whereas if we were, living out the bush and we had to go hunting or something like that, we get that uneasy feeling and we'd go, oh, there's something wrong here, there's a predator, and that would actually stop you from, going further or proceeding in what you were doing, because when it counts, your instincts are there to help protect you or to help preserve your life. But sometimes we ignore our instincts because we say, oh, stop being silly, I'll just get on anyway, or oh, there's nothing wrong with him, or oh, it must just be me, I'm anxious from work, or something like that. So rule number one, know your horse and then trust your instincts. So if you've got that uneasy feeling, then you need to go ahead and think to yourself, this uneasy feeling is for a reason. I need to tap into that, and I need to maybe work with the horse and say to myself, okay, I need to take a little bit more time to prepare the horse or make that uneasy feeling go away, basically. Make sure that I've checked that everything's okay to the best of my knowledge. Number two is dropping the ego. So your ego is what is going to say, oh, everything's fine, get on the horse. And your ego is also what's going to keep you on the horse, and you say, I need to ride him through it, don't let him win, don't get off him, all of those things. There's plenty of brave people in the graveyard or in the hospital. So when you feel that you're in a situation and it is unsafe to remain on the horse, you need to get off the horse. That's rule number two. That whole fallacy about the horse winning when you get off, it doesn't exist. That's not true. The horse might win if he bucks you off and he gets to go home to the stable and you're left in the paddock. Maybe that's a connection that he might make if he's done that on a repetitive basis. But a simple action of you bending the horse and stepping down and then getting yourself through that situation, that is not the horse winning at all. So number two, drop your ego. It's fine to get off the horse and fix it from on the ground. Number 3 is having a pre-flight checklist. So most people who have attended my clinics before will have heard me talk about a pre-flight checklist, and they'll hear me say things like, you know, if my horse doesn't bend, I won't get on him. If my horse doesn't do this, I won't get on him. If my horse doesn't do this, I won't get on him. And when we did the colt start back in January, and I took 7 people or 6 people and me through the starting process of them starting their own horse for putting the very first ride on their own horse, we all knew how important that was, because we had no evidence of how the horse was going to behave under saddle. We had no idea, we had no way of knowing how those horses were going to behave under saddle, other than putting the work in and being observant and going through that checklist and going, you know what? He doesn't want to bend today, so I'm going to get him to the point where he can bend before I get on. You know, we call it the green light. You know, exercise number 1, ground exercise number 1. Did I get a green light? No. Well, you don't get on the horse then. Exercise number 2, green light? No. Well, you don't get on the horse. This is the way that we can make sure that we're safe to get on the horse. As the horse gets older, you know, I can run through my ground exercises with my horses in 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not saying you need to spend an hour on the ground with your horse. I'm saying that by the time you catch him out of the paddock and walk him to the arena or walk him to the stable, you can go ahead and have him moved around, and you can be investigating whether he's ready to get on. So number 3, have a pre-flight checklist. Number 4 is taking the time. Hey, Rachel. Number 4 is taking the time to make an assessment of the horse. Often I know now it's winter time here in Australia. We're starting to run out of light in the afternoon. So you might be shooting down the paddock and you'll grab him and chuck the saddle on and think, oh, he'll be right, I'll just hop on. Without taking that, like I said, 2 or 3 minutes to just make that assessment, even on my performance horse. You know, my performance horse, we've got a situation here at the moment where you guys would have heard me talk about it in last week's show. Those of you that were watching, our horses have been spooked here at home by a drone flying around. And it's still evident a week and a half later, those horses, you know, I walked out the back door the other day and the back door banged and they reacted. And these are old performance horses that normally would not react to something like that, but they're just a little jumpy. They're just a little jittery. So if you don't know, you know, none of us know what happens with our horses 24/7. We don't have our eyes on them for the whole 24 hours of the day. So you don't know that something hasn't happened to give them a little bit of a spook. So, you know, old bomb-proof out in the paddock, if he's had a spook and you go ahead and you don't do that quick little bend or whatever your pre-flight checklist is, you know, he could be a little jumpy and you're not aware of it. So number 4 is taking that time, as I said, 2 or 3 minutes or longer on a younger horse to make sure that the horse is right to get on. Number 5 is being present with the horse and being observant. So probably one of the most relevant things that I see today and frequently today is we live on a road where people ride down the road to go trail riding and things like that. We live on a road where there's a sawmill, and so Monday to Friday there is log trucks, there is the staff cars going past early in the morning and then in the afternoon and at lunchtime when they go to the shop to get their lunch. And I will frequently see people ride past here with headphones in. And, you know, if they can't hear the log truck, then how can they possibly be prepared for the horse's reaction or possible reaction to the truck? You don't know that he's not going to let his air brakes go. You don't know that he's not going to beep or do something silly. I'm sure most of us could share experiences where, you know, we might have been in a little bit of a situation just because someone thought it was funny to beep the horn or to come a little closer, or to, you know, we've been out the bush before and I've been sprayed by gravel from a motorbike because the guy obviously thought it was funny. We've had a guy circle us and do donuts, and thank goodness we were on, you know, good horses that were able to handle that. But I'm sure many of you could share, and feel free to pop it in the comments if you like, incidences where people just, non-horse people who just think, oh, I'll give them a scare, and they don't realize how huge that situation can be. So you must be present, take the headphones out. I see people all the time as well, and I know that I'm guilty of it, you know, tie the horse to an esky. I did hear that story, Charlie. Yep, absolutely. That was not funny at the time, I'm sure, but it was funny to hear it being told. You know, the other thing that I see all the time is people taking photos or being on their phone. So I'm guilty as well. I take photos when I'm on the back of my horse, if I'm on the trail, but I make sure I put my phone away pretty quickly. I might pull it out and go click, click, and then you know, it's back in my, I actually put one in my boot, and then I've got the two hands for my reins. I don't ride along with my phone. I don't ride along on the phone, and I don't ride along, you know, on Facebook and things like that, which I've seen as well. If you're distracted, if you're not present, your horse can feel that as well from you. And so, you know, you've got to think you're the pilot, and if your horse can feel like you want your horse to trust you, but if your horse can feel that you're not present, then he's going to take matters into his own hands. He's going to turn around and go, I need to take care of business myself, because she's not going to do it for me. She can't hear the log truck because she's distracted, or, you know, he doesn't know that you know, you think you're right. All he can feel is that you're not 100% present on that ride. So being present and being observant as to what's going around, you know, Phil and I will ride out often on trails or something like that, and both of us will say, oh, there's a kangaroo in the paddock up ahead, or you know, I can see something up on the track, or whatever, because you don't know, if your horse hasn't seen it, that kangaroo is going to jump when you get up next to him. So if the horse hasn't seen it, there's a chance that the horse might jump. Now, I'm not saying when you see a kangaroo or something that you think will scare your horse, don't go ahead and gather him up and go, oh, woo, 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 it's okay, because you're going to actually cause a problem to happen. But it's going to help if you're aware of the situation or the potential problem, and then you're ready to deal with it. You're not sitting there going, oh, chat, 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 and your friend hasn't told you there's a kangaroo, and said all of a sudden the kangaroo jumps and the horse jumps to the side, and you come off simply because you weren't even, hey Tanja, hey Karen, because you weren't even focused on what was happening. Okay, so being present. I enjoy riding with people as well, but make sure the whole ride is not just a big old chatterbox, because you know, that's when situations can happen, when people aren't present about what is going on. Part of our job as a pilot as well is being aware, and I guess it comes to being observant again, being observant about, you know, certain things that might be a little bit of a bother to your horse. You know, is someone up the road mowing the lawn, or can you see a logging truck coming in the distance? You know, can you get yourself to a wider bit of road to wait for him to pass? Or, you know, you need to think, oh, I'm coming up to a causeway, there's a car coming. Do I want to be parked, you know, stopped right on that causeway to give way to the car if the car doesn't give way to me? Or should I be back here a little bit further on the wider section of road? These things are going to make your rides a lot safer. So number 6 is tuning into the horse and being aware of body language at a deeper level than what we were all taught when we were kids about, oh, you know, the horse has got his ears back, he must be cranky, you know. You need to go beyond that. Hey guys, that's okay that you're late, that's fine. Hey Rachel, you need to go beyond that situation, and or you need to go beyond that body language that you know. Hey Michael, and go a little deeper. You know, is the horse's tail swishing? Is the horse comfortably walking with his head low or flat, or is he looking around? Is he sort of trying to look for things to spook at? They don't actually do that, but you know what I mean. If they're actively looking around, the more they're looking around, the more that chance there is of you know, them seeing something that they're not going to like. Is the horse, has he got his head, you know, I see people ride often, and I'll say to them, I wouldn't even ride that horse. Look at him, his head's, oh, he's like this all the time. You know, I've ridden him like this for 10 years, and I think, well, it's only a matter of time. You just get him closer, because you haven't taken the time to go, well, hang on a minute. You know, that high head and those wide unblinking eyes and that chomping on the bit and that swishing tail collectively mean he's not okay. He's not comfortable. And horses that aren't okay and horses that aren't comfortable are the ones that can be reactive. They're the ones that can, you know, jump or shy or, you know, do those undesirable things that we're all trying to avoid. So tuning into the horse and being able to read his body language, that's number 6. Number 7 is practicing good habits. So I am guilty just as much as the next person of saying, oh, it's only Cooper, he'll be all right. And I had to stop doing that when I started starting horses under saddle, because I do things on Cooper that might be considered, or that would be dangerous to do on a young horse. It's very difficult for a human to categorize and go, oh, I'm on Cooper now, so I can take a few risks. Oh, now I'm on a young horse, so maybe I shouldn't put my raincoat on, or maybe I shouldn't drink out of a water bottle off his back, or maybe I shouldn't wave to my friend and call out. Maybe I shouldn't pick up a jacket off the fence. Those things that you become accustomed to doing on your old horse can set off a whole series of incidents with a young horse, or with one that is not as educated or not as confident yet as the old horse, or so don't fall into the habit of developing lazy habits of not taking the time to go, you know what, if I'm going to put a raincoat on my horse, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that he, that he's bent a little bit, make sure that he can see me pick it up. Obviously this is the trained horse, or teach the horse to accept the raincoat, up and over him while you're on the ground, before you just take for granted that you can do it on his back. I know that there's a lot of people out there that change from horse to horse to horse. So if you just practice safe habits 100% of the time, then you're going to consistently use those habits, or continually be safe, rather than going, oh, that's right, I'm on a young horse, I shouldn't have done that. And I've seen it all the time, and it can being complacent. Thank you, Monique. We do get complacent with our older horses, and we can go ahead and, maybe we've been lent a horse, or maybe we've got a new horse, or maybe we're riding a horse that we're trialing, or, whatever the situation is. If we've developed poor habits along the way, then we're going to do those same poor habits on the new horse, and maybe it's not going to be set up for it. Okay, so practicing safe habits is number 7. Number 8, I'm going to talk about equipment, and I'm just going to take a sideline here. This isn't going to turn into a helmet discussion or debate, so we don't need to get into that whole thing here. What I'm talking about in regards to equipment is certainly a helmet. If you want to wear a helmet, then put a helmet on. Certainly a vest, maybe. I've seen people put the vests on, obviously, if you're riding cross country and things like that. A few endurance riders wear the vest, things like that. So a vest can offer you a little bit more protection. My personal favorite is my safety stirrups. I've got breakaway stirrups. So funnily enough, the video this morning of the guy whose stirrup got caught on the bridge, thank you, Tanja, if you're still watching, for sending that through. It is very relevant. If that was a safety stirrup, the whole thing would have just pulled off. So I've got those on my fender. I don't have them on my Western saddle, but that's just because I don't have any more. So safety stirrups are probably my number 1 recommendation in regards to, beyond training and all the things that we talk about in horsemanship courses, beyond the horse, but just having a piece of equipment that can really help. Obviously stirrups can get caught on things, but you can also get caught in the stirrups. So English saddle, you can buy English ones, and you can also buy breakaway Western and fender style breakaway stirrups. So I just love safety stirrups. Going beyond that and going onto a saddle that you feel more secure in. I meet a lot of people that are riding in a dressage saddle, and they'll say to me, I don't feel really comfortable in this, but when I put my fender on or my stock saddle on, my friends say, what are you riding in that for? Get rid of those friends is what I say. If your equipment makes you feel safe, then you go ahead and put a fender saddle on. If that's going to make you feel better and that's going to make you feel safer on your horse, then go ahead and do it. You've got to look after you, and you've got to look after your horse. Don't worry about what other people are talking about. Going beyond equipment for the horse, I'm just going to talk quickly about clothing. I don't wear earrings, bracelets, rings, anything like that when I'm working with horses, particularly young horses. But again, if it's a habit for you to, I'm only riding my experienced horse today, so I don't need to take off my earrings, then that one day when you're in a little bit of a hurry and you go get on your young horse, then that's a time when you might forget. So, anything that can get caught. I have seen rings get caught on things, and it's not pretty at all. Bracelets can obviously get caught, especially gold and things like that. It can be really strong, so it's going to cut you well before it's going to break. Sometimes the clasps and everything are really strong. Earrings can even just, if you get bumped on the head, like even with your helmet strap or something like that, could get caught and pull on an earring or bump, and that's just going to give you that little jolt of pain where you're going to be maybe a little bit distracted in a situation. Whereas if those weren't there, then it's not something that you need to worry about. And it goes onto your clothing as well. So no, don't wear your keys on a lanyard around your neck. Don't wear sort of long, droopy kind of t-shirts or things that could get caught. I ride in a Western saddle, so if you were to fall or get jolted over the saddle, then certainly your shirt or something could get caught on the saddle, maybe your long sleeve shirt, things like that. And obviously your corrective footwear. So smooth soled boots, so they slide out of those stirrups. I do see people riding in like hiking style boots, or those muckabout boots that you can get that aren't meant to be for riding, but they're made by a riding company. So you buy them and you're supposed to just walk around in them, but then you think, I'll just get on the horse. He's right, it's my quiet horse. And then all of a sudden he jumps to the side and you're getting dragged down the road because you haven't got the correct footwear on. So, really think about those things. No bare feet. Hillary, that was specifically for you, that comment. Bare feet are fine. Well, bare feet aren't fine, because if you do come off, then obviously you're going to hurt your foot when you come off. But bare feet are okay if you don't put your foot in the stirrup. But bare feet with stirrups can be really dangerous, because if your foot slid through, there's no way that's coming out if you're getting pulled along. It's one thing to have your boot toe stuck in a stirrup, but your entire foot can slide through the stirrup and it can be around your ankle like a bracelet. So yes, Tanja, I have heard of that as well. Tanja's saying the underwire bra caught on the horn. So I have absolutely heard of that situation happening before, where someone's been sort of thrown forward and their bra's hooked onto the horn. And that can be a situation as well that you need to consider, how your clothing fits and whether that's a potential issue. Number 9 is not taking any horse for granted. So I've covered that a couple of times in regards to, taking the time to assess the horse, even if it's your educated horse. Every day is a new day, and we never know what our horses have experienced in the preceding 24 hours or since we've been at the paddock. So just because, we got Al, Phil's old horse, Al came to a clinic on the weekend, so some people could ride him, and we still, even though he's, mid-20s, he's as sure as eggs are eggs, we still would go through some pre-flight things before we would put someone on. We're not just going to say, oh, he's fine, no problem, because you just don't know. So don't take any horse for granted. Do, take that couple of minutes to observe and really tap into the horse. Choosing your riding buddies. So this is one, I was talking to a lady once, and I have had this conversation with a few people, but one of the incidences sticks in my mind. And that was a lady that had a young horse at a clinic, and I was chatting away to her, and she said, I've been taking him out trail riding, but I went with my friends the other day and they took me on this new track, and there was logging trucks drove past, and I think there was like a back end loader that drove past and all this sort of stuff. And the friends, when she got back to the paddock and all unsaddling, the friends had actually said to her, oh, we took you that way deliberately to see what he would do. So I was blown away by that what she was telling me. I absolutely couldn't believe that so-called friends would put a friend in a situation on a young green horse where they were probably coming from a perspective of, oh, I'll see how good the horse is and see if he can handle it. But to put your friend in a situation where the horse might have bolted or might have, and to actually try and make it happen, you know, you need to choose your riding buddies. Yeah, I know, that's what I was like, oh my God. Choose your riding buddies wisely. And make sure that they're the type of people that if you say, I need to stop, or I need to get off, or I'm going to walk for a while, that they're going to say, yep, no problem, we'll walk with you. Not, okay, we'll meet you back at camp, we're just going to lope off on you now. Because to leave you alone, obviously, is just going to cause a whole new set of issues. Your horse is going to start to stress that it's been left behind, potentially, and all that sort of stuff. So choose the people that you ride with wisely, and make sure that they're the type of people that are going to that's funny, Hannah. Make sure they're the type of people that are going to look after you, and you're the type of person that's going to look after them. You know, if you're in a group with someone who says, I need to get off my horse, yep, no problem at all. It's not always about us. And if we choose to ride in a group, I feel like we've got a responsibility for the whole, you know, no man gets left behind. The whole group goes out together. The whole group keeps each other safe, and the whole group, you know, it has a responsibility of getting back together all at once. So choose your riding buddies carefully. Having safety protocols is something. So sometimes when you go out with a group of people and you're trail riding, you might have, or, you know, on endurance rides, obviously, like imagine that you've got the whole group sort of starts to split up and things like that. And obviously at a professional endurance ride or a competition, they've got checkpoints. So they've got a person at a checkpoint who reads your number as you go past. And so each one of those checkpoints knows exactly where you are on the track, or you know, within a period of, but within a space, within, you know, 10Ks or 5Ks or however close together the checkpoints are. But there's checkpoints along the way. Now, if you're just riding with a group of friends, but maybe there's 10 of you and 2 of you might sort of get a bit further ahead, and, you know, there's maybe 3 in the middle and then another 3 and then another 2, or what, you know, whatever the math is, you do sort of start to stagger out. I think it's important to have protocols in place where you're either stopping and waiting for each other, maybe when you get to a water crossing or a bridge crossing or something significant like that. You say, okay, after every water crossing, we're just going to wait and make sure everyone gets over the water, and then we can set off on the trail again. Something I noticed in this video this morning, this gentleman was riding, and the people that were in front of him, they weren't that far in front, but they crossed the bridge, which was you know, it wasn't huge, but it was a reasonable length. And they sort of went up the hill after the bridge, and then they were gone. And he's stuck on the bridge with, you know, this stirrup stuck on this thing, and he's calling out, hey, just wait up, just wait up. If the protocol had have been at any crossing, turn and wait and make sure all the horses are safe, they could have been there, and maybe his horse wouldn't. It was a great horse. It was pretty calm through the whole incident. It could have been a lot worse, but if they had turned and faced and waited for him, not only would they have known what was happening and maybe been able to offer some assistance, but his horse might not have been worried about being left behind so much. But as I said, it behaved very well. That wasn't a huge issue, but I'm sure it had the thought of, you know, all those horses have left me, you know, I need to keep going. So some safety protocols when you're going to go out riding. Turning around after water crossings. Maybe you guys can share some if you guys are trail riders and things like that. If you have your own sort of set of safety that you do, go ahead and put it in the comments. I'm sure people would love to see what you do to make sure that you're safe on the trail with your friends. Certainly checking in with people back at camp or at home, letting people know, look, I'm going on the trail, I expect to be a couple of hours, I'll call you when I get home. Knowing which trail, you know, I ride alone a lot, and I try and make sure that I've said to Phil, I'm going to take this trail, or I'm going to take the long one or the short one or the middle one, or, you know, whatever, you know, so someone at least knows where you are, and having a few of those safety protocols in place. Number 12 is checking your gear. So I was at the start of a 40k endurance ride once, and I was riding somebody else's horse on all of their gear. It was a last minute thing, and just before they said, okay, go, the rain broke. Thank God it broke at the start. But the rain, the clip was, you know, old, and it just broke in half. So I don't know if that's something that they could have potentially noticed about the clip, because it was a clip. But I have seen frayed girths, I have seen frayed girth points, I have seen frayed stirrup leathers, I have seen all that, you know, bridles that have got, you know, half the cheek pieces starting to fray across, any of those sorts of things. So checking your gear and making sure that all the girth points, the stirrup points, the reins, the connection to the bridle, the headpiece, all of that sort of stuff, undo it all and put it back together, you know, oil it, that sort of thing. Obviously, you know, leather needs to be taken care of, and it does wear thin, especially if we're doing beach rides or we're in the heat and things like that. Check your gear, and so look after your gear, but definitely check your gear, and, you know, do make sure that buckles can take a little bit of strain. I mean, if you can pull on it like this and it's going to snap, then, you know, thank goodness that you can snap it at home before you're actually out on a trail ride and stuck in the middle of nowhere with no bridle on your horse because your bridle's just broken or whatever. So definitely check your gear. Number 13 is about being realistic about the horse that you're riding, and or the horse that you're going to buy. So, you know, there's a reason that there's a saying called green on green makes black and blue. So it's not recommended that a green rider or an inexperienced rider or a rider returning back to riding or any of the above goes out and buys a 3-year-old horse and gets a green broken horse. Okay, green on green makes black and blue. So really need to consider what you're sitting on and what you're throwing your leg over and what you're expecting that horse to do. What's it capable of? Hillary's saying, I used to have an app on my phone called Companion that used to let people, you know, you were going out and they could track you. Okay, cool. So I think there are a couple of apps available in the App Store in regards to that, and probably not only horse riding ones, there's probably mountain biking ones and things like that as well that you can probably get on your phone. So that's a really cool idea. Taking your phone with you on the trail and having your location services turned on, so if they did need to track you or something like that. I know I turn my location services off all the time because it drains the battery. So, you know, make sure you go ahead and pop that on before you head out on the trail. Number 14 is rider fitness. So rider fitness is a big one, and we did a rider development course over the weekend where we went through a whole heap of basic fitness protocols for riders, and did a whole heap of fun stuff on balance and things like that. And I just wanted to touch on it because I have seen people sit on a horse and the horse literally walks forward and they've gone, oh, and they're nearly falling off the horse. Sometimes it might not be as huge as that. It might not be as significant as that. But a general guide would be, if I said to you, drop your stirrups and pop your hands out like this, Titanic style, how does that make you feel? If I said to you, hop on your horse bareback and I'll lead it and you put your arms out, if that makes you go, I couldn't do that, I wouldn't be able to, then you've got a balance issue. You need to work on your balance. You need to work on developing your core strength. We can get really, really lazy when it comes to saddles. Saddles prop us up a lot. We can rely on those stirrups and things. And then when the horse does a little jump, all that's holding us in there is the saddle, and all of a sudden the saddle moves. We don't actually have a good sense of balance. We're not making micro adjustments ourselves. Our body's forgotten how to do micro adjustments. So definitely making sure that your rider fitness is at a level of good balance and reasonable fitness, so you can make sure that you can be as safe as possible on your horse. So number 15 is setting yourself up for success. So think about what you're about to ask your horse to do and consider whether it's appropriate. So if your horse has been out spelling for a month, it's probably not the right day to take him out on a trail ride or take him to the beach for the first time or something like that. If the horse has been not ridden for 2 or 3 days, but you've maintained his feed at an athlete's level, then maybe that's not the best day to take him out on a trail or something like that. Maybe he needs to do some arena work and get his body moving and get his head back into the game. So set yourself up for success and really know, if you've made a time to go out with friends on the weekend on a trail on the Sunday, make sure that you've done some rides during the week and get the horse under you and listening to you and all that sort of thing, so you can have a good time out with your friends. Don't just grab him out of the paddock after a week or a month or however long and expect that he's going to be like, oh great, you're back, I haven't seen you for a week, but yeah, sure thing, I'll trust you with everything I've got. We need to consider that with us asking our horses to trust us out on trails or in strange places or at new showgrounds or events and competitions, sometimes we forget that our horses are, that's a huge ask. We're asking them to trust us, but then we sit there on our phone or we're distracted or we do this or we do that, and the horse thinks, well, how can I trust you? You're not even here. So it's a big responsibility to ask a horse to trust you with, to the fullest extent. So you need to live up to that responsibility and make sure that you are going through all of these things and being a responsible rider. So they're the top 15 15 ways that we can be safer when it comes to riding accidents. So know your horse, trust your instincts. Drop the ego. It's okay to get off. It's okay to lead your horse. It's okay to get off and do ground exercises if you think he needs it. Number 3, have a pre-flight checklist. Go through it. And number 4, take the time to assess the horse. So take the time to, make the time to do that pre-flight checklist and anything else that might be warranted. And take the time to fix it. Don't just say, he'll be right. I know him, he'll be right. He might not be right. Number 5, be present and observant. No headphones, no on the phone, no photos, all that sort of stuff. Be present. No chatting for 10 hours or however long it is, for 2 hours out on your trail ride. You should be constantly checking in with your horse and making sure that, the conversation should be between you and your horse, not you and your friend. Tune into the horse and learn to read his body language at a deeper level. Practice safe habits. Even on your old horse, practice the safe habits that are going to keep you safe when you do get on a strange horse. So keeping him bent while you're mounting, those kind of things. Your equipment. Use the equipment that you feel is going to keep you safe. So a vest, a helmet, safety stirrups, riding in a stock saddle or a fender saddle. Your clothing, make sure you're not wearing rings, jewelry, bracelets, anything that can get caught, lanyard, earrings, all that sort of stuff. Make sure you don't have things that are going to get caught on things and potentially, pull you off. Number 9, don't take any horse for granted. So even your old horse can have an off day. Your old go-to can have an off day. So don't just, ride along, no hands, looking backwards on the trail. Even old horses need you to be keeping an eye on what's going on around you. Choose your riding buddies well and say no to those people who are not good riding buddies and aren't looking after you. And you need to be a good riding buddy, look after others as well. There's plenty of other days to have rides, so we need to look after each other. Having safety protocols, so maybe waiting after each crossing out on the trail, making sure everyone gets through the water, making sure everyone gets over bridges, that sort of thing. Check your gear. When was the last time that you checked your gear? Make sure your gear's secure, your leather's not breaking, your buckles are all good, all that sort of stuff. Even things can undo. I know that on a lot of my gear, it's actually tied up, so it's braided in certain ways. Well, sometimes through a lot of use, that stuff can start to work its way loose. So, some of my bridles, they might just have a fancy little you know, knot of leather that's holding the bit onto the bridle. So if I don't check that, sometimes that knot could have come undone and it's going to come untwisted, and then all of a sudden I've got no bridle on my horse. Number 13, be realistic about the horse that you're riding. Green on green, black and blue. 14 is rider fitness, so work on your balance, work on your fitness and your core strength. Your core is what helps you remain balanced in the saddle, and your flexibility is what helps you ride nice and long, so you're not tucking those legs up and causing yourself to be top heavy. Number 15 is preparation, so set yourself up for success. If you know that you've got a trail ride on the weekend, then start planning to ride the horse for a few days before your trail ride on the weekend, and make sure that he's got his head in the game, he's nice and ready to be ridden. He's not going to come out and be all excited because he hasn't been ridden for, you know, a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is. So they're the 15 things that we can do to help us remain as safe as possible. And the next 5 things that I want to talk about is just a few things that we can do in regards to preparation, I guess you'd call it. Preparing the horse so he's less reactive if there is an incident, because obviously the horse's reaction can be a huge contributing factor in regards to an accident or the severity of an accident. So for example, a rider being dragged, a horse, you can train a horse that when it feels you start to come off and lose balance, you can actually train the horse to stop when he feels that. Whereas a lot of horses, if they haven't had that training, are going to potentially spook and run. And then if you do get caught, you're chasing them. So we look at it from, oh, he's dragging me. But to the horse, he's like, something's hanging off the side of me and it's staying with me. I've got to run faster and faster and faster because I'm frightened of what's dragging beside me. So teaching your horse how to, you know, that when he feels you sort of coming off the side or feels a little bit of unbalance, then that's a cue for him to stop. Okay, so you can train that in. So that's number 1. Number 2 is you can make sure your horse is exposed to or desensitized to, if you like, dragging things. So you can teach him to be okay with like a rope dragging beside him, or I've seen people, you know, drop, maybe, I know I ride with a Makate, so sometimes my Makate will fall down onto the ground and that'll be dragging. Well, that's something that could, you know, potentially spook a horse, but I've done the process so my horses aren't worried about things being dragged next to them. Some people carry their halter and lead with them, and that might drop onto the ground and start dragging. So make sure your horse is okay with something being dragged along beside him, so instead of him going, oh my God, what's that? I'm going to run, he can just go, oh yeah, that rope's there beside, that rope's dragging on the ground. So that's number 2. Number 3 is exposure training, or what I like to call exposure training. And this is part of just building confidence with each other. So you can never show your horse every single scary thing that he's going to ever encounter in his entire life. But the way I look at it is the horse that I've shown 50 scary things to, and he's been able to trust me through that, and I've done it in a correct way. Compare that to the horse that I've only done 5 with. Well, this horse has got 50 pieces of evidence that suggests to him that I can be trusted when he gets bothered when he's looking at something. This horse only has 5, and some horses might have 0. So in regards to a horse reacting in certain situations, the horse that's had 50 things shown to him and he's decided that they're okay, and you've shown him that you can be trusted when he gets worried, or you can train him that when he's worried to look to you for guidance, then you're a lot better off in terms of the confidence of the horse. So that's number 3. Number 4 is carry a knife. Both Phil and I, when we were watching this video this morning, both of us were like, just cut the stirrup, just cut the stirrup. What are you doing? You know, the guy was trying to undo the saddle, and he was riding in a Western saddle with a breastplate. So he had the breastplate to undo, he had the girth to undo, he had the rear cinch to undo. And of course, everything was super tight because it had 600 kilos of horse laying, you know, with the stirrup pulling on the saddle. So everything was tight. It took them close to 2 minutes to get the saddle off the horse. Whereas if either one of them had been carrying a knife, you know, yes, it's probably an expensive exercise to cut through your Western saddle, but who cares, right? When you're in that situation, carry a knife with you so you can cut. You know, if something gets caught like that, you can go ahead and cut it. Sometimes your horse will get tangled in vines. When you've got a knife, it's a lot easier to get them untangled out of vines and things like that when you're in the bush. You just never know when there's a potential situation. Even a rope or something could get tangled or whatever. And if you do go riding a lot in areas that you're not familiar with, or maybe they don't have really good clear tracks and things like that, I would even be tempted to carry some kind of wire cutters as well, because in that situation, like the really cool little Leathermans, they've got wire cutters on them as well. And then if you were to get tangled in wire, or the horse was to put his foot through wire or something, you could go ahead and get that off. Okay, so having some tools with you when you're out on the trail, or even in, you know, if you ride in, you know, paddocks with cattle or something like that, you just never know what you're potentially going to encounter. So just a simple knife but with a set of wire cutters on it is something that could really save the day. So that's number 4. And then number 5 is teaching your horse a really, really, really solid one rein stop. So your emergency stop. I don't mean do it 5 times and say, oh, yep, he's got a one rein stop. I mean, if your horse is in the worst case scenario and he is bolting flat stick and you can't stop him, somewhere in that fuzzy brain of his that's panicking and the adrenal glands pumping and he's just going hell for leather, somewhere in that brain, if you have trained that one rein stop often enough and well enough and at all the gates, he will respond to that one rein, because it will become an unconscious action for the horse to do. That only comes from hundreds and thousands of repetitions of that one rein stop. And as I said, at all gates. Don't think, you know, walking along and doing a little soft one rein stop, that's not going to cut it when the horse has decided that he's worried by something and he needs to get away. You need to take it up into the trot, you need to take it up into the canter and really make sure that that horse, his instinct, you've got to override his instinct. So his instinct's saying bolt, 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 bolt. So you've got to put something in there that says, oh, hang on a minute, I can feel my nose. Oh, I've got to stop. That's what you want on a horse that, you know, you're taking out. And I mean, not every horse. I put it on every horse, obviously, because that's what's going to keep you as safe as possible. So that's the 20 things that I wanted to talk about tonight. I didn't touch on specifics in regards to horsemanship training and things like that. That's a whole nother video. What I wanted to talk about was probably some of the most basic things that we do tend to overlook. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Warwick Schiller's got a cool little video on Facebook where he talks about, and what got him started was someone wrote an article that basically said, someone had referenced a freak riding accident, and then someone else had written an article and said, oh, there's no such thing as a freak accident because having an accident off a horse is a given. And so quite rightly, that got up Warwick's nose, because he said, well, it's not a given. That's not actually true. If you go back to people that have had accidents, most of them can probably list or say, oh, you know, my foot got caught in the stirrup, safety stirrups, boom, problem solved. Like got the guy that got stuck on the bridge just this morning, safety stirrup, boom, wouldn't have happened. Things like that are all too frequent. Yes, there's the odd thing that can happen. I'm not saying that freak accidents are, you know, can be completely eliminated, but I think that we like to think that an accident was a freak, because we don't like to think that it's something that could have been prevented, because we're riders and we think, oh, you know, that wouldn't have happened. That was a freak accident, because that makes us all feel good about it, instead of saying, well, that could have been prevented because, you know, you didn't do this, 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 and this. So obviously, you know, an educated horse and a trained horse and things like that, the more education your horse has and the more experiences your horse has with you, good experiences that your horse has with you, and the more training your horse has, the more the potential goes down, I guess. But these 15 things that I spoke about and the 5 of the horse preparation ones, if we all did them, I would say that we're all going to be a lot safer tomorrow when we're riding our horses if we make sure that we've checked off all of that list. Oh, Hillary's just saying, she told me about this. So Hillary was out on the trail and her horse didn't like the stones under his feet, and so he moved off to the side. Most of our horses do it, no big deal. There'd been a lot of rain. Bam, the bank fell away underneath him and they dropped down. Thank goodness both Hillary and the horse are fine. And it was, I mean, there is a collective amount of things that happened there. Obviously, the horse was allowed to move off to the side. Hillary didn't know, neither of them obviously knew that the bank was weak. There had been a lot of rain before. Where they fell down the bank, they specifically landed in like this one spot. Otherwise, it would have been a lot further drop. So there were a lot of things that went into that. But I personally, I've got the same thing with Cooper, where he likes to move off onto the soft to preserve his feet. And I actually stopped letting him do it, not because I was anticipating an accident, which happened with Hillary, but I actually stopped him from doing it because I found that when I started to try and do my dressage test with him, that he felt like he could actually go anywhere he wanted. So when I was like, no, we need to go down the long side of the arena, Cooper was like, oh no, I feel like I need to be over here. Oh no, I feel like I need to be over here. Oh no, I feel like I need to be over here, because that's what I had let him do on the trail, because I was just letting him move his feet because I was concerned with his comfort, and I was saying, oh, well, you know, it is softer over there, so you go ahead and do it. So what I make sure I do with all of my horses now, and I'm certainly not making the same mistake with Boogie, is I make sure I choose the path, and I make sure Boogie, or whoever I'm riding, goes exactly where I'm asking them to go. So that is something that is really important in terms of having control of your horse's feet, and also doing the one rein, having that one rein stop. Not that a stop would have helped Hillary, because obviously the ground just fell away underneath her. So she might have even chosen to take the horse over there. So that certainly does border on a freak accident. There's no way she could have known that bank was going to fall away. But now in hindsight, maybe all of us, and I'm sure Hillary, will maybe take the horse to the other side of the trail, not on a ledge. She'll go to the other side where it'll be softer, sort of under the cliff face, if it's that type of trail, obviously, if it's a cutout kind of trail. So making sure that we can ask our horse to be exactly where we want our horse to be is really important as well. So they're the 20 things that I think that we can all do in regards to keeping ourselves a lot safer in regards to our riding accidents. And as I said, please feel free to comment if you've got any out and about safety protocols that you like to follow with your friends when you're out on the trail. I like the one about turning after a court, you know, any kind of crossing. So a bridge crossing, a water crossing, that kind of thing. That's definitely something that is going to help keep the group together and make sure that we're all sort of looking after each other. So I will have an information sheet available on this talk. It'll just have the all the points listed out, and maybe a couple of things that I've said in regards to the points. So if you would like that information sheet, please send me a private message. Don't put it in the comments, because sometimes Facebook is temperamental with the comments, but it also, a lot of you, I might not have your email addresses, so you need to send me your email address into my inbox so I can just go ahead and cut and paste it and put it straight into my little send field in the email. So if you would like an information sheet, please let me know and I will send one off to you. And if you want to keep in contact with us here at Tanja Horsemanship, our website is horsemanshipforperformance.com. Our Facebook page, you're obviously all on it, but you can go ahead and click the follow button. I don't know if it does it if you're on a phone, but I know if you're on a computer, you can click the follow button and then click on see first. It doesn't mean, it does mean I will be at the top of your newsfeed. Tanja Kraus Horsemanship posts will be at the top of your newsfeed. But if you've got, say, 10 or 12 of those, they just all come up on your newsfeed first. So what we're doing currently here at TKH is every Monday we're doing the Monday night live show at 7 o'clock. Every Wednesday we're sending out a newsletter with an article in it. And every Friday we're uploading a series of videos to YouTube. So at the moment we're doing Building a Citizen. So last Friday's YouTube video was the do's and don'ts of float loading, and all the other Building a Citizen YouTube videos to date are still up on the channel. We don't take anything down. And yeah, we're trying to get a lot of resources and a lot of information out there to you guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight. If there's any specific topic that you'd like to see me cover, please send me a message. As Vanessa did, thank you, Vanessa, for giving me this topic tonight. I think it was a really important one, and I hope that you got a lot out of what I've talked about tonight, and I hope it helps clarify things for you a little bit more. Thank you all for watching, and please share with your friends. And like I said, send me a message, or if you'd like to see me talk about any specific topic, or you'd like to see me write about any particular article. So hope everyone enjoyed it. Good night.